Hello and welcome. It is December 3rd, 2024, and I'm talking with Fiona Gardner today. I'm Megan McDonald, and if you've been here before, I have various topics that we go into, but today we're talking about, well, crystals. We're talking about light and frequency and ion charge and the electricity that goes through our bodies and how we can understand that better by examining urine and what aspect of urine. And we might use the word urine or plasma or Shivambhu, or you probably are used to these words by now. And today with me, I have Fiona Gardner, who has been researching this, looking into this for a very long time. And her most recent work, and that she's presenting to us today and sharing with us, is, well, beautiful because it's a lot of images. And so what, with that sort of general intro, Fiona, what would you like to say in terms of what are we showing people today? What are we looking at?
Hi, yeah, and thank you for the invitation to share this work. It's such a gift. So what we're going to be actually looking at is, so what happens when we actually start to use urine for ourselves and for our health and for our healing, and what that looks like when I look at the urine of somebody that is been taking their urine. So what actually we're going to be looking at is like patterns of information, and how patterns of information are different in everybody, how we're so unique in our expression, how that light expresses itself, um, and how it's a pattern of information that has existed from beyond time, from beyond the beginning of time, because the structure and the image is so unique and similar to how, so if we look at like the pyramids or cuneiform information, we look at ancient carvings in caves and rocks and stuff like that, how there's a similarity.
It's interesting, you just in terms of you saying that, my I call her my god sister. My godparents' daughter is a researcher who, for her master's thesis, she researched all the signs that are found in the Paleolithic caves, and she found over 32 symbols across a 10,000 year span in geographical locations where people could never have known each other or
Yeah,
talked to each other. And those 32 symbols repeat across time and space.
it's amazing. Yeah.
And so when you say that some of these are like they're beyond time because they're part of how we express,
Right.
then I'm really, I remember something else you said in another interview I heard with someone made me wonder. I want to get out her book and I want to look at the symbols compared to some of the things that you find here
Right.
in the as well. So just to give people that sense of this is big scope. We're talking very large quantum, sort of how big is the universe and how far can you stretch your imagination? This is the sort of scope we're talking about in terms of the impact of what is in our bodies and how our body functions with light and patterns. Yeah.
Yeah. And most of the, like when I mention the symbol, I might not have as many of those symbols because that's kind of like the second part of my
Mm.
presentation. So this is going to also, because for me, this also ties into um, what we create within us, these antennas, because we look at ourselves physically as an antenna receiver, the toroidal fields,
Mm.
the torus, the heart, the way the heart is symbolized like that. So I will go into that a little bit, but also how these antennas form within that electrical magnetic current that runs through our body. So that takes me also down into the realms of, like the Tartarian, the structures, the way the ancients built. So
Mm.
they built a specific way to be able to use the ether, for energy. And our bodies are designed exactly the same. So within this presentation, it's kind of on that line too of how um it's not like it's that we're able to be connected to infinite energy. It's
Mm.
like, we think of Tesla and free energy. This is infinite energy that's out there all the time that we can use, and there's a way for us to power it up within us, to increase that charge. Yeah, so that's kind of
Wonderful. Let's jump into it then. So this
okay.
this is Fiona has prepared slides for us today, and so go ahead and share your screen, and we're going to go through them and see where it takes us in the conversation. As she said, there's more. So there's like part two, and then also, at least here in terms of what I have on my channel, I haven't done an interview with Fiona on earlier work. So potentially we could end up with 3-part series, 4-part series. Let's see how many times we can look at things here, depending on what Fiona's got to share. So
I think
go
I've got
ahead.
about yeah, I think I have about 6 parts so far.
Oh, good. That's wonderful to know. All right. I'm excited.
Excuse me. Okay, so this is just kind of like the introduction page.
Mm,
So we're rediscovering that power that's always been within us. When we think of when we were in the womb, before we were even fully formed, the amniotic fluid, the urine, is informing our body. It's actually creating our body. It's that creative force that is creating us as a baby. So this is about reclaiming our birthright. Um, and just so this is just an image in relationship to how cuneiform ancient language looks like, and how it's very similar to how we see the
mm,
crystallography
hmm.
itself in the urine. So like urine, there's so many words for it: urine, arena, orina, shivambhu, ultrafiltrated plasma, or sacred waters. It actually rights our energy imbalance. So where our body before, when we haven't been using our urine, like, we get tired, we have so many issues, disease, stress, life, so our body's always having to take energy from somewhere else to keep the body um energized and moving. We eat our food, so the body's like, oh, I've got to use energy to break things down. When we start using our urine, what that's actually doing, it's giving the body a break.
Mm,
It's actually feeding the body energy so that the body can go, oh, I don't have to put so much energy into that. So now there's a balance in the body. So this allows our energy to be invested. So I know with my journey with my plasma, I don't have fatigue. I have a wealth of energy. I can wake up in the morning, I'm raring to go. I don't have peaks and lows and highs of energy. It's just I have my energy all when I need it, all day long. So we're also creating really strong, coherent fields of light and sound within us. Because when we think of like us, I don't even like to use the word cells or, frame mitochondria or things like that, because we're like, what really exists? There's so much controversy out there right now about that. So I'm always focused on the microbiology in our body, our somatids. I will use that word somatids, which goes back into like Naissance, Béchamp, and all those greats from like the 1800s and 1900s that were looking at these organisms back then. And I feel that they're the key that we empower when we use our urine, because we're actually then creating a field of energy, a different terrain for them to thrive in and be more indestructible and a lot stronger. So they're able to work in an environment where they can exist at the higher potential of what they are. I hope that makes sense.
yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so what we see here, we have like 6 different images, and these are all from separate 6 different people,
Mm,
6 different people doing urine therapy. So what you can see is that each person presents their structure, their pattern of information in a very unique and specific way. So
So
yeah,
when you look at these, so you take the sample, and is it always would these be similar magnifications, or are you playing with a bunch of different magnifications to get to the images, depending on the person?
these are all at the same magnification.
Okay.
So yeah, like best to have context of this. So we're looking at a pinprick. So imagine a pinprick of blood
Hmm.
on your finger. So I'm taking a very tiny droplet of their urine and putting it on a slide.
Right.
And then I am honed in on a very specific area of that tiny dot to get that image. So it's not the full, because my microscope's not equipped to take the full picture of that tiny, tiny drop
Mm.
of urine. So that's what makes this even more mind-blowing because it's in such a small drop. I'd say the drop is no bigger than 5 mils
Right.
in diameter. Yeah.
Yeah. So 5 millimeters in diameter. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even 1 mil.
Hmm.
This is the tiniest amount of urine that I'm looking at, and this is one specific area of that small sample. But that shape and formation happens all over that tiny amount
Mm.
of urine.
Yeah.
Um, so everybody's like vibration, the frequency, and even the momentum of how that, and I have some videos that I'll show you of how that starts to move through the fluid is different. The speed it moves, the shapes it makes, and the colors. As you can see, everyone's so different.
And
And
oh yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
No, I liken it to consciousness.
Mm.
This is expression of their consciousness.
And these are all
Of
people who are also drinking their urine. And I don't know in this presentation whether you compare the two. In other ones, I know you've compared from people who aren't to people who are, but there's a big difference, you've said
there's a
in, yeah.
Yeah, there's a huge difference, and I have some images further down
Okay,
to
great.
show that. It's kind of like a before and after, before they started urine therapy and
Yeah.
after they started urine therapy. So yeah, so everybody expresses themselves different. It's absolutely beautiful every time I get to look at somebody's urine to see how expressive and fluid they are and how their energy moves through their being. It's beautiful.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, so it's this pattern of information, the form, the structure. So it has resonance, and this resonance it informs our internal and external environment. Um, oh, I just lost my train of thought.
So,
Sorry.
so in terms of that idea, just in terms of people thinking about it, when we talk about like the whole body has resonance and that is informing who we are. So if these images are in our urine and this is like one individual is showing up as more fern-like and another one is showing up as more cuneiform, like this will naturally speak to who we are as a person, our personality, how we move in the world, how we think, the way our thoughts form, the way our cells reproduce. It has a different way because a fern is a different way than like the things on the right look a little bit more like the natural world, and the things on the left look a little bit more like what we think of as electricity, or we think of as slightly more grid-like, for example. I mean, one on the right is a little bit more like a grid too, but you can see those differences. But then if you take it beyond that to how we express in the outer world, how do we talk? How do we organize our space? What do people feel when they come into contact with our energy field? And so resonance
Exactly.
is going
Yeah.
beyond just this idea that, well, our urine's vibrating at some certain thing, but this is a microcosm of us as a person. This is a holograph of us as a person. So it's how other people also maybe experience our energy or perceive us.
Exactly. I always like, and I say everybody has like their own like biosignature.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's like people who are artists.
Mm.
I've noticed that their urine's very different. And even when I'm looking at children's urine, and how that looks and how different that is, and thinking, oh, that's very like how the artist's urine looks
Mhm.
like, that creativity. It's beautiful to see like where the relationships are in the formation and the patterns, because it's kind of like they create their own landscape, their own story, their own
Mm.
their own resonance. And something that's interesting too about the way this forms is the angles.
Mhm.
Sometimes there's a pattern of angles that are very similar, and then some that are totally different. So even in that, angles in nature, represent a different way of how that person receives information or transmits information. Um, and again, and three different people, three
Mhm.
different patterns of information.
Fabulous.
Yeah, and then there's the way the color represents itself too, for that person. Some people are very blue, there's lots of sometimes very green, there's lots of platinum, silvers, and then you get to like golds, So I call it like it's living architecture. It's really expressive. Like we can even see in this first image the way these points are all very different
Yeah.
in how they form. And even this image here, this reminds me of um, if you were looking at an image from maybe space, looking down on the planet, the way lightning may hit the surface of, well, oh, let's take the Grand Canyon, what the Grand Canyon looks like, structures like that on our
Mm.
planet. Things look very like that in urine. It's like sometimes an estuary, flowers and et cetera, et cetera. And even shapes. Like even in this top one, we can see the way it's shaping out from the center, creating like a very like toroidal field.
It's like an
You know,
eight. It's like
enemy.
the sign for infinity as well. Like there's,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, and again, another three different people, total different
Mm.
expressions of themselves. Especially like you look at this top one, she's just pure honeycomb.
Yeah.
And she actually, her world is all about bees.
It's fab.
She's also a seed collector. She sings to plants. The garden is really sacred to her, and bees are very sacred to her. They have bees. This is her work, and her expression is all honeycomb. So to me, it's like, wow, I get goosebumps. I was like, oh my gosh, it's just so validating that there's
Mhm.
a relationship here, that when we use our plasma and initiate that connection, we are really divinely connecting ourselves back into the ether, the true source of our energy, the connection we have, that we are nature.
Mhm.
I think a lot of us feel so disconnected from who we are and what we are, and that we are alien to the planet in a sense, which is we're just so interconnected here. It's beautiful. Anyway, sorry, I'm rambling a bit. Okay,
Oh.
so the other thing is the coherence in the structure in the plasma,
Mhm.
and the fractality of how it forms. So this is looking in even more magnified at the urine, to
Okay.
see how even when we're looking at it from a wider aspect, that when we go in deeper, it's just creating the same shapes and forms over and again. And even in this like bottom one, we can see like the colors that are moving through hair expression. It's very how it's if you were looking at like how the veins and the bloods or the lungs or the trees or everything goes. There's a pattern that is running through nature that's we're all connected into, that's all divine, that's all the same, that's been created in a certain way because it works.
And so that
And that,
fractality, that idea for people who maybe have heard the word before, but it's like the larger crystal form, when you go in, the same crystal form is repeated in a smaller version and then repeated and repeated and repeated. So we see it in nature all the time. But I'm trying to think that hybrid between broccoli and cauliflower is fractals. It's this really pine coney looking, I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's a vegetable that is between broccoli and cauliflower, and it forms these little
oh
spiky.
yeah. Oh, I've forgotten the name of it too. I
Yeah,
know what you mean.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
it's not,
really nice.
but it's fractals. It's fractals in a vegetable that we have in our kitchen that is easy, it's easy to buy it, but it's everywhere in the world, but it keeps going and going and going and going and going. So we can use it as a metaphor. Fractals are useful as metaphors for our own life and going, if you pull out, what's the pattern you see? And if you go deep into it, what is the pattern you see in your life? Like, how does that pattern then work on a teeny tiny detailed level in your life, and how does it work on the macro level of your life? Yeah,
Right.
those are beautiful.
Right. Yeah. So this is just another expression of that. People might be more familiar with like Lichtenberg figures, or people may have heard of things like Birkeland currents, that create the universe, energetic formation. It's like, yeah, it's a part of us too. We express ourselves in this way,
Is this
also.
all one person? So is this the
No,
drilling
this
down?
is this is another three. This
Okay.
is three different people
Yeah.
again. Um,
Mm.
yeah. So so this is kind of more like, so when we're initiating a connection and we're sculpting and developing the subtle bodies, when we use our plasma, activating our energy and consciousness instantly. That's kind of what I see, and that's what I've seen with some of my clients. So that's why I was kind of like moving to it. So this is urine from clients before their urine therapy. So we've just seen like the images of like people that are on urine therapy
Right.
and using their plasma. This is what urine looks like when you're not doing urine therapy. So you can see there's a big difference.
Well, I
There's
mean, without it, not wanting to like get into being negative about the urine and going, well, that's not optimal, but
yeah,
it isn't as interesting. For like, just visually, there's not as much going on in terms of identifiable patterns, and the like, you can sort of squint and see that there's potential for something to be
yes.
there, but it's not formed into something that makes you go, oh, I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah. It's like the body's it's like, for me sometimes I look at it's like the body doesn't really have the energy to take its potential to its highest. The information is there, the pattern and the information is there, but the body has no energy for it. And it
Yeah.
kind of looks broken up, like you said. It's like, yeah, like if you were communicating with somebody that they don't have full access to their potential.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, so this was after when this
Oh,
was more or less like instantly afterwards.
like the same day
How
or
they
within a week or
well within a week.
wow.
And one person only his what so this is this one. Can you see my cursor?
Yes. Yeah.
So he just did one big shot of his urine, and wasn't really like using it a lot, was maybe doing it on skin. Um, but even a week later, there was a massive difference.
That
Um,
is phenomenal.
yeah. Yeah, so it was incredible to see how quickly they change. And also for the they also felt like they had just suddenly had like an awakening, like had sudden access to themselves, parts of themselves that um they were like struggling with before, like
Mm.
it kind of like woke them up in a sense. Um so yeah, so a massive difference. So that so we're looking at like then the potential of how we harness energy and how we put it out. Yeah. And so then that kind of moves on then to this is more what I've seen with people that are doing their plasma for a longer period of time, have been doing urine therapy. That there's an element of it was quite fascinating to see the gold that
Mm.
starts to show in the urine and how that changes. And this top one here, where you can see my cursor, this is actually a 2-year-old child.
Oh, wow.
So, and they're not taking their own plasma.
Right. So just the quality of
So,
the energy
the
in the
quality,
body is still high.
yeah,
Yeah.
and is very gold.
Mm.
That was something that surprised me too. I wasn't not that I was expecting anything. It's always like a wonder. It's like, oh, okay, that's a big piece of information
Hmm.
right there. And then looking at the different tones of gold
Hmm.
that show in the urine as well. So I always think of like alchemy. There's that word of like turning lead to gold.
Yeah.
There's the philosopher's stone that everybody's seeking that is actually within themselves.
Yeah.
It's a whole process that we alchem al as our fluids, like our blood, is moving through our body, moving through all the specific organs, especially when it comes to the heart and the heart being a vortex, and then it coming down out, into the kidney area and all the things that the kidney does is it's transform that it's all alchemy. It's all this inner alchemy that's going on, and then we express it, the plasma out of us. I'm sorry, I am losing my train of thought. So anyone can jump in and say anything.
Well, just going through like the different, like the progression that we've already seen, part of what is really apparent to me because I work with people who generally they've started or they're just about to start if they're taking a course from me or they're talking to me, and then I get to hear from them over the course of the coming weeks, months, and years. So there's people who've now been working with me for 3 years, 3.5 years. And they say things like they feel more coherence, they feel more intelligent, they feel more connected, they feel like they have more access to their own inner knowledge, that it's not as hard for them to find answers or direction, that even in that sense, the direction in their life starts to become clearer, that they start to understand better what to do next, either about their health or about what's going on with them. Now, when people start drinking their urine, they can also, like, to bring it right back from the subtle realms we're in out to the gross of the physical body, people can have a healing crisis. And suddenly, if they've been constipated for years, all of a sudden the bowels start to let go and open, and they're like, whoa, I wasn't expecting this. But that also, if I go back to what we're seeing in the urine is using so much energy, is being used by the body to do other things. When we start putting the urine back in, the body has energy to do stuff it couldn't do before. So for example, being constipated that's the body not having enough energy to move something through, to
Yeah.
process something. And so why would I just bring it up because it's one that happens a lot. Why would that be something? Well, partially it's the difference in hydration, because the quality of the water, the quality of the urine, and the water in the urine is so different than the water they've probably been drinking. But also then there's this very, very subtle level of what is the communication that's now going on in the body, and why can the body can now divert energy to take care of something it couldn't take care of before.
Yeah.
So this idea of of the urine itself. Also, if we're an adult, if we're a baby, we're still close enough to the having been in the womb, we were drinking in our own urine, our body recognizes the urine, it's been nourished by the urine, and there's a certain number of years, obviously, to when we're little, we're not, or our conditioning kicks in later, right? Like yes, we get conditioned before the age of 3, but we're not taking in heavy philosophical concepts at that point. So like the urine is very different when I look at this 2-year-old's urine on the screen. But then you look at an adult who hasn't had their urine for 30 years or 40 years or 50 years since they were in the womb, and the urine is disorganized and it's not got very much light in it and it's not as pretty and there's just not as much happening. And this idea too, I've said this to people for years, but what I see on the screen is backing up everything I've said. It's like your body's producing urine all the time and it's doing the best it can. But when you start giving the urine back to it, it goes, oh, you're listening. You're going to participate. You're going to have a conversation now. You're engaging with me. And then suddenly, because you restarted the conversation, the body produces so much more beautiful urine.
Right. Yeah. There's so many things there that were so key that you said, from the water we drink, how we have actually learnt when we were in the womb to be able to manage our blood volume, that intake, that when we can balance that, because we actually we stuff so much in our mouths.
Yeah.
We drink too much, whether it's water or other kinds of drinks. We actually eat too much. All these things create an imbalance in the body, and the body's got to get rid of it.
Yeah.
On some level, because otherwise the body would drown in its own fluids if it can't balance itself. The body is so intelligent and designed in such a way for doing that, for the control
Yeah.
of maintaining homeostasis within itself.
Well, and you see
And
that in these images, you see homeostasis. In a way, you
yeah.
see like that these images are very contained.
And one of the things I was just remembering about the gold, because when people take in even gold as a supplement, I know there were studies out there done that showed that, when people take in gold, this kind of process in the body stops. So the body isn't actually then putting all that energy into having to break down enzymes or do all kinds of enzymatic functions and things like that. It's because this gold can then come in and is the substitute and the energy for whatever that process needed.
Mm.
I still think we don't fully even understand the intelligent design of the body.
Oh no, yeah.
It's so broken down into its little pieces and parts and aspects that kind of makes it very scientific and hard to follow, and then kind of confusing. And it's like, wow, there's this because for me it is about like the microbiology, the somatids that I talk about. I'm like, they're the ones in charge of your body.
Mm.
They're the ones that the whole communication system. When you empower them and give them the true environment that they are aligned to living in. I mean, they can live in any environment. They will pleomorph, they will change shape, they will adapt to the environment. But when you give them their natural environment, they will empower you, they will be indestructible, they will be able to do magic and things that are beyond what we even know, because there's no research into that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's definitely another big part of what I've been looking at, and what that actually entails, and what we actually wake up within us. So yeah, so we're able then to access more information. I forget, there was another little piece, that something you said that I don't remember.
Well, what's the next slide? I want to make sure we get through the
Okay,
slides in the next.
yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Again, 3 different people, 3 different expressions
Mm.
of their light, their frequencies. Even the colors are very different.
Yeah.
So again, gold. I was like, well, so what is even gold? What is it even good for? You know, it's so good for blocking the electromagnetic disturbances. You know, we think of like we live it with so much electric noise, so much radio, microwaves, the cell phones, the Wi-Fi, the blue light, you know, everybody seems to have Siri wired into their house.
Yeah.
So gold like repels magnetic fields. This is acting as an energetic protector within the body. That's why the ancient Egyptians consumed gold. They knew there was some truth and magic, you know, within that. You know, gold can harness the energy of the sun. When I've worked with urine, especially in it was mostly in the summertime. I haven't done it through any other different seasons. Um, Urine goes gold
Yeah.
when it's in the sun. So that thing of like putting our urine out in the sun is really great. You know, it for skin for putting it on our skin, you know, and then being out in the sun. This is going to harness such a protective, I don't even like to use the word protective layer because it's just reinforcing what is naturally there and available for us, that we become that stronger, coherent field, you
Yeah.
know, so we impact the weaker coherent fields. We become more armored against the proliferation of non-native EMFs, you
Mm.
know. So you can walk into, say, a store, you know, where other people are, and your field of coherence is going to be so much stronger, no matter how many people are in there. You know, you're going to have an impact and an effect in that environment, and that's going to impact and other people in there. You know, we all know we have people that um you know, oh, friends like, oh God, that person really drains me.
Yeah.
You know, so once you start doing your urine and plasma, you're not going to have people that like drain you anymore because you're going to be impacting that environment, that you're going to trigger them. Going to trigger them to have a healing reaction, a gentle one,
Yeah.
but you are.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I look at that as that's just part of our, again, our inner technology that's there to benefit us, to and protect us. So this is honed in with the microscope even
Mm.
closer to look at like the very singular representation of the crystallography,
Mm.
you know, of how they look like antennas,
Wow.
and how they have different wavelengths. They all have like different colors. They have different shapes to the crystals, different patterns, different angles. So when we have more voltage, we actually have more of these antennas
Mm.
within us. So we're looking at ourselves being like liquid crystal. You know, we're a water battery, basically, you know, this fluid. Um, so that voltage potential, like you were saying, that when we get that energy, we become more energized. Like I think you were mentioning about the constipation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it takes that constipation and go, whoosh, yeah, it's gonna flush that right out. Because I always, I like to say that it's reincarnation wine.
Mm.
And it actually, I always say, it takes out the dead.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like, bring me your dead. I'm ripping it out.
Yeah.
Urine therapy is going to rip out everything that's dead, everything that's non-native to the body,
Yeah.
that's not physical biology. So I'm talking even about like anything that's foreign. And a lot of people have heard already about my journey with my teeth, and I won't go into that. That can be a conversation for a different time. But this is how we access that infinite energy. This is how it grows within us.
Yeah.
So we were looking at like, so I look at the blood as well as urine, so I can tell like if somebody's blood is very energized or they're very sluggish. So when we start taking in our plasma, we improve. So the Zeta potential is just that charge in the blood. Um, and I feel that it's the most effective means to address both acute and chronic symptoms of illness. Our plasma is electrically charged, and it's mostly a fluid with a wealth of microbiology. Our blood has a charge, the body has a charge, all have a negative charge. Disease and different types of symptoms have more of a positive charge. So again, when you're taking in that plasma, it's gonna shift that and change that and rip that out the body.
And when we
So
say this, just so if people are listening, what do they mean by that? So, for example, I have been on a fast before where I have then done an enema that had aged and fresh urine in it. And immediately following that enema, a foot-long parasite came out of my intestine. Now, what am I talking about? Why do I bring that up? Because the parasite is positively charged. The urine enema was negatively charged. That negative charge acts like a magnet with the two poles, right? Where you're bringing a negative and a positive, and it pulls that positively charged thing out of the body. So we can talk about it as negative thoughts start to leave the body, addictive behavior starts to leave the body. The idea that what things are being pulled out of the body that are non-native, it's on every level, a physical,
yeah,
mental, emotional,
yes,
spiritual. But on the
yeah,
physical level, it could be a parasite or constipation. On an emotional level, it can be addiction. On a mental level, it can be repetitive thoughts or out of control. There's another word for that, but just compulsive thinking. So all of these are ways that the urine actually, I will say the same thing. It will, the more you have that negative charge, the body's able to rebalance.
yeah. It has a lot more energy, and it doesn't have to go and grab and get energy from somewhere else and then compromise that area of the body. Yeah, exactly. Because those highly charged particles ensures that electrical like stabilization and keeps the fluid, I say like it keeps that river flowing. Because when it's not, when we have that decreased blood flow, and this is what I see when I look at people's blood also, you can see the stagnation in their body.
Mm.
Um, so that we can see that stagnation is like causing a range of dis-ease and symptoms within that person. So once they start to use their plasma, that really starts to change that stagnation, that the way they flow, the way their fluids start to flow through their body. There's more, yeah, there's just yeah, so I just said the magnitude of that charge on will determine the health of the body. It's either a healthy flowing river or it's a stagnant pond.
Yeah.
You look at like people that I don't get bitten by mosquitoes anymore.
I'm much
And so
less as well. Much less.
yeah, because mosquitoes love a stagnant pond.
Yeah, I used to be somebody who they would flock toward me, and I've noticed if I'm
Yeah,
in a group of people, I might get one bite, but everyone else is getting 10 or 12. And I live in a high mosquito
right.
area too. Like this is a lot of mosquitoes. So that depends too on where you live. But no, way
Yeah,
less. And also the bites don't affect me the way they used to. I used to swell up hugely, and
right.
now I get a little bit of itching and then it goes down very quickly. So there's a real
Yeah,
difference in the way the body also responds. Yeah, so what's
yeah.
next?
Okay, so I wanted to show a video so people get a
Mm,
concept of what this actually looks like in real time
okay.
and how it moves.
Oh.
It's so beautiful.
And this is just like things are just forming and reforming as you sit there, like in the sense that this is fresh or evolved urine.
This has evolved
And so the evolved is constantly in process. Is that the case?
always. Yeah, it changes year by year. It's incredible.
But I
And you
mean,
can even see,
this is within a few seconds or minutes. This is you're watching it
yeah,
shift.
this is in real time. It's not speeded up, it's
Okay.
not slowed down. And you can see the way there's other they never the it's very aware of itself. It will not crash into itself. It's very aware if there's something forming in front of it, it will stop.
Mm,
It will crystallize.
wow.
We have another different views.
Yeah.
So you can see the way it will not it won't crash into it. It's very aware that it's there.
It's just stunning. And how old would these samples be of evolved?
These ones were, when I took these ones, I think they were they might have been 4 or 5 weeks.
Okay.
They go at different speeds. They form different, like I say, like different angles, different formations of crystallography.
Mm.
Some go really fast. Some are a little bit slower.
It's just beautiful.
Yeah, so noticing like the way it moves, kind of, I was thinking it's kind of like it's like the voltage potential, how
Hmm.
much energy is there, how much energy they're able to access. Um, and this is just looking a little bit closer at those structures
Mm.
of how they form. They kind of have like when they're moving through the fluid, because this fluid, it's not drying. This is
Right.
energy that's moving through a wet substance.
Mm.
It will move, it will stop for a minute. It's like I'm like, are you thinking? Are you you're waiting for something, but it's like there's something out in front of it that it knows is forming. So it's like, what am I going to do next? And sometimes it will pinch itself and
Mm.
then shoot off. So it's like it has these pinches along its formation. And again, I don't know an awful lot about Birkeland currents, but it kind of reminds me of Birkeland currents of how they move through the universe.
Mm.
And we can see in this lower one, you can even see how the energy is very spirals
Yeah.
as it's forming. And even in this top one, we can see the shapes. So it's like it's able to be, I call it tetrahedral. It's moving and forming the environment in front of it, and it's like it creates in every pulse movement, like it's creating a tetrahedral, another tetrahedral. Oh, it's joining with a molecule. Now I'm a tetrahedral. And these crystals and formations just keep forming. And this is the 2-year-old child. And what I noticed was his formation was gold. I've
Mm.
never seen it form in a golden manner like this before.
Wow. Mm. The way the color just comes in right away, it's so bright. It's so full of light immediately. And that's just, if I mean, we take it for granted because we're looking at a screen and watching a video, but to have something just form out of nothing and contain so much bright light is really quite phenomenal.
Right. And they do literally, like I've watched the space for a while because it's taken me a while to figure out how to capture them, how to
Mm.
capture the image on a video. And I'm like, what is it that like triggers it? Is it a small piece of crystal in the blood? And I'm looking and it's a dark space. It's just like it just comes out of like nowhere.
Of the
Uh,
void, it comes out of
yeah, comes
the.
out of the
I
void.
love it.
So this shows how once you're in like with using your urine, how like the structures become very toroidal.
Mm.
When I've been able to watch it like as it implodes and gets really fractal, there's this shape
Okay.
starts to occur. So again, toroidal fields, again, I'm always looking at that. That's a form of like it's a force field. It's
Hmm.
energetic projection. And these formations show up a lot more in people with plasma. So they can be different in size, shape, color, quantity, their
Mm.
energy, and their vitality. But again, we're looking at again these toroidal fields that are formed plasma. And
Mm.
for me, I'm like thinking, okay, this is so we're like, there's things out there about water. Everyone's talking about structured water, easy water.
Yeah.
Got to have this device to energize our water to do this. I'm like, this is what is structuring your water and giving your energy. There's no expense needed.
Yeah.
You do not need to pay for any device to um to do that. you do it by ingesting your own plasma because you're going to increase the toroidal fields within your body and how they form.
Yeah, I did a big dive on the easy water when I was teaching my last couple courses because I came across it somehow and then I went, well, wait a minute. And the more I got into it and looked at everything they say, they're like easy water leads to, and they had a list of, I don't know, 12 things. And I went down the list and I said, these are all the things that people who drink their urine say. And it was
Yeah.
protection from EMF and more intelligent and like I can't even think of them now, but I have them. I mean, that'd be easy to pull them up, but the same effects where they're like, when you drink easy water, this is the effect on your system. And like, when you drink urine, this is the effect on your system. Absolutely down the line, one for one. And so, yeah, I'm fully agree.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm totally fine if somebody's like, well, I'd rather do that and have the water
Yeah.
that way. I'm like, that's tough, it's
You're
no opinion, no judgment. To me,
no.
this is just this, but this to me, this is more natural.
Well, and you're
And
getting,
what,
if you're just drinking easy water, you're not getting the communication from your own body
yeah,
back in.
no,
You're
you're not.
getting better water, like you're getting a water which is of a higher order, but you're not getting your internal communication system up and online.
Yeah. So I started to delve into the water a little bit more. I was looking at water under the microscope.
Yeah.
I was looking at the water, like my well water here. I'd go into town, take water that was you know, in bathrooms, not in the toilet, in the sink, the
Yeah.
water they were using, to wash with, or in different places, and wasn't seeing anything. I was like, oh yeah, it looks beautiful. I don't have those images. But so I dived down that because I was really feeling like there's something about the water we drink. And I was also in that world of way back ancient past. I do believe our world was very different. Our realm was very different. I am a little bit of a believer of like the giant trees that existed,
Hmm.
that the whole Avatar movie experience, that we lived in a different environment and that the trees, and the environment we lived in then filtered our water in a different way.
Mm.
That the water we experienced back then was very different. So I decided and I tapped into specific information around, and I don't want to go into this too deep. I don't want to take up too much time because that's a whole other slide. Is our body creates water.
Yeah.
So people say, oh, it's the mitochondria that create water. They create light, they create water. So our body has the capacity to do that. And it does that when we start to introduce our urine, our plasma, it starts to do that very, very efficiently. So that water that they produce is actually, there's a term for it. It's called deuterium-depleted water.
Hmm.
Most of the water we drink has levels of deuterium. And the statistics out there say it's safe. Our body needs deuterium to do some certain things and processes, but when it's flooded with too much of it, it really disrupts our biology and it makes them inefficient. So we're looking then at that pathway of stagnation, disease, and symptoms because the body can't process it and it can't get rid of it. So I decided to do an experiment with specifically deuterium depleted water. And so this is how my urine changed. This is why these images are here.
Okay.
My urine changed to being a lot more golden, colorful. The toroidal fields were just everywhere. There was a mass amount of energy. I could feel the change within me as a person too. But I'd also stopped drinking an awful lot of water because I couldn't bear the taste of it. I just thought it was disgusting. But this water tasted really nice. I was like, oh, this is different. Okay, we're going to do this for a while. So I noticed how the water we drink is really important.
I'd like
It
to
is
do a
really,
whole other hour with you on water because I
yeah,
fully
I
agree.
won't go too
Water is
deep into that.
yeah, but
Yeah,
so
it's
this
huge.
picture is after you were drinking the deuterium depleted, or this is before?
After.
This is after. Okay. Yeah. No, I mean,
This is how,
it's like the most beautiful decorations, like Christmas decorations you've ever seen.
yeah. Yeah, and the amount of geometry and
Yeah. It's like they're showing off.
Oh yeah, they're so happy. They love
Yeah.
it. But the actual water, when I look at it, looks exactly the same too. I was
Oh,
shocked. I've never, because I've been looking at water,
yeah.
and then I looked at this water and I went, oh, there's something in this.
Yeah.
It's really specific. So yeah, that's a whole thing. So this is just more showing that charge,
Mm,
that field of energy that opens up in the body. And again, again, it's here too. So we
mhm.
can see again in like these images, like the infinity symbol,
Yeah.
um, the way
The
the
crystal.
field looks. I
Yeah. And
think
these
that's
these are all from you?
no.
Okay.
I think that the bottom one is my one.
Okay.
These are two different people
Okay.
again.
Oh, so that's where you wanted to get to today?
I think so.
All right.
Yeah, I think that this was kind of like that this was kind of moving into like a different section, just
Good.
talking about color and the influence of color.
Okay. So, I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's a lot for people to take in
Yeah.
anyway. That's a lot of information, especially if it's the first time you've come across it. Um, and I have more things to say anyway about what is in there, and also that it everything. I'm so grateful to you for doing this work because it is backing up my own experience of having been involved with uropathy with Shivambhu for, well, since 2013 and doing it myself. And at first having no one to talk to, but then as I talk to other people, the same feedback coming in and the things that I've felt in my own body and that I've seen and I've experienced, your work is backing it up. It's showing it on that minute level, on that incredibly subtle field that the experience in the body is what's happening. That is, things are getting more cohesive, more intelligent, more connected, more energy, more online, more powerful in so many ways, and that we need so little else besides. And I mean, I'll throw in some people are in such a state of depletion that sometimes it can help if they work with herbs, if they work with
Yeah.
someone who knows what they're doing in terms of replenishing on
Yeah.
a physical level with the physical world. And then when
Yeah.
that replenishment, when that energy is in better balance, then the urine can really take it to another level beyond. Some people start with urine therapy and the body starts detoxing at such a rapid rate that they
Oh
have to
yeah.
slow it down and do a bit first. So we're not trying to say with anything that we're putting out there that if no matter what's wrong, just drink urine and all your problems will go away. It's more complicated than that. But I think what Fiona, the gift that you're offering here is to say the inherent intelligence of the body and the universe are connected in such a way that you have access to eventually all that you need.
I love that. Yeah, that's exactly right.
And there's beauty, the incredible beauty of it.
Yeah.
How could we not be drawn toward that? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was kind of what my intention and hope for this work is, that it can validate so many things and give others that visual experience too, because there's something about the visual experience of when our eyes see something, and then when those images like imprint, into the back of the eye and the brain, and then how
Yeah.
that's going to inform the body. That I do remember somebody saying to me, he said, who would have thought that urine could be so beautiful?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, because we are. We are created in the eye of in the love of the creator. This is the intelligent design.
Yeah.
How could anybody deny that experience?
Yeah. Well, that's a perfect place to end today. And then we will
Okay.
come back and do more because I want to hear more. And I just to keep bringing it together for people so that they can make those connections between their experience, between modern science, between ancient sciences and ancient intelligences, and they can start to bring all of that together in because we all have our own backgrounds. And so I think what you're offering too is so different from what most people are able to access, that it can, no matter what you've researched in the past, this can help to bridge some of those pieces that are maybe you've been looking for or missing in whatever it is that you're doing out there in the world who are watching us now. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Fiona, for being here, and we'll see you all again next time. And any information on how to contact me or Fiona or what we do will be in the description for this video. See you next time.
Bye-bye.